Welcome back to the Elaboration of the Philosophy. This is episode 5. My guest today is a very good friend of mine, Francesco. How you doing today?
How you doing?
We're doing good, so we'll hop right into it as usual. So the first question for you, I have the same first question for everybody. It'd be, what is your philosophy and what experiences have led you to the latest shift in your philosophy?
So I would say my philosophy has definitely changed over the past year, definitely. And my philosophy going forward is pretty much, it's cliche I guess, but just live in the moment, sort of. Don't harp on things too much, because I guess like people, especially myself, I used to just like let one thing hold me down, and I wouldn't really think about the future. And like, I'm not saying you have to just completely think about the future, I just kind of let the future come to me.
Word. Yeah, I get that totally. I always was one to like harp on just any event that I couldn't control. Like, for example, my dad passing. You know it all too well. Like, things that I couldn't control, I not only didn't realize that I couldn't control it, but I almost put it on myself to be the reason as to why shitty shit has happened.
Yeah, and I still do that to a fault, and it's just, I think, human nature. We just, issues that, like, we're tied to, but we can't directly change. We put it on ourselves to, like, say, oh, we should have changed that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of just looking back and, like...
Yeah.
I guess, like, for me, like, I understand in a lot of experiences in my life, I know that there are things that I can do that would have, quote, made things better, but at the same time, like, especially from yesterday's trip, like, there's nothing better than now. Like, there's no other situation that we could create right now that is, like, ultimately better, like, more of what we want to do.
Yeah.
You know, all you can do...
Use what's at your disposal, pretty much.
Literally, you have to use all your resources, and, like, you know, right now, these are conversations we've had before. It's nothing... These conversations are nothing new, and now it's just, alright, we put a mic in front, and, like, that's why I do this, and I've said it so many times. I do it to share information. I think you are someone that I learn from individually, both talking and most of the time not talking, just nonverbal communication. And, you know, I think it's very important for these kind of conversations to be recorded and, you know, just have it flow and let people know kind of what the deal is, you know?
It's good to share.
Word. So from there, I got, I guess, a list that I kind of just look at every time I do these episodes, because originally my first step to kind of figuring out the topics I would talk about on the podcast was writing just as much of what I believe in terms of my philosophy as I can, and then I created a list off that. And I guess for you, one question that I have for you, kind of very fitting, but I guess your relationship with drugs, different types of drugs, and just, I guess, in every sense of the word. Because for me, like, the term drugs over the years has kind of went from, alright, everything that was basically told to me that was a drug, like weed and coffee, and even alcohol, but not really as much. But then more and more, I've come to realize that, like, everything really has a drug, like, aspect to it, if that makes sense.
I'm forgetting the word right now, but an attraction, sort of.
Yeah, there's an attraction to it. There's, if you're in it for a while, there's definitely a dependency factor, whether it's physical or not.
Yeah, get that.
But, yeah, I just, I'm curious as to your relationship with, I guess, individual drugs, but then the concept of just drug use and how that's evolved.
Alright, yeah, definitely. I feel drugs, there's a negative connotation. There's always a negative connotation around drugs. And honestly, it really depends what you're doing. I mean, I know none of us are doing heroin and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, those... There's just a negative stigma that I don't think should ever get removed, honestly, because those are just really hardcore, unless some like medical stuff comes out about that, which I doubt. But in terms of drugs I've used, I mean, weed, we all use it pretty commonly. It's almost an everyday thing, and it just helps me relax, cope with shit, honestly. Sometimes I depend on it too much, but I don't know, I like the relationship that I have with it. It makes me feel good. I haven't really experimented with anything crazy besides, obviously, we tripped yesterday.
Yeah,
and that was a
crazy,
great time.
yeah.
I already want to do it again eventually in the future. I want to reflect a little bit on it. I have like time pass in between each time I do it, just so I could improve upon myself in that time and see if I actually did improve or
yeah,
if I
I
took
feel
steps
you.
back.
Because like for me, especially when I started tripping, mushrooms specific, because for me, like, the mushrooms are a totally different animal in terms of like the way you feel your space moving through the universe, and like it's not a drug in the sense of like, oh, it has this effect. It does in that sense, because you're eating a mushroom and you're then tripping balls and seeing shit the way you haven't before. But I also feel that the mushrooms are very, no matter how bad the experience gets, like, they're still always home to me in the sense that like they bring me back to my core foundation and my roots more than anything, really, you know. And it's crazy because like I've the relationship with drugs that I've had for a very long time wasn't, I guess, ideal in the sense of really just ignoring it all. You know, like, one thing that's pushed so heavily is like just saying no to drugs.
Yeah.
Which, like,
drug assemblies we used to have.
Yeah, like, you can't, like, for me, like, you can't. It just comes down to telling people what to do. And, like, people are going to actively do the opposite thing once they're 100% not fearful.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, I was pushed to not do shit, and I was afraid. And then when I was totally not 100% afraid anymore, then it expands a little bit. You grow, you accept information for what it is as opposed to believing what you were told your whole life. And I think it's applicable in all fields of education that can be done, whether it's school, drugs, all of it.
Yeah, well, building off that, with drugs, we've always been told, like, no, and it creates a fear around it, like you said. And I think if we taught people, not the good things, but the benefits more than focusing on the negatives, because obviously there's negatives and positives with everything you do, but when people talk about drugs specifically, they always harp on the negatives. They like blank out the other side of the argument. And I think education obviously could help with that. I don't know how young you should start people with that. That's a conversation to be had, but we need to stop creating this really bad stigma around things, especially like weed, which have been proven to work medically.
Yeah, I think that I think with the drugs, it's more so of allowing people to really, at the end of the day, like, fuck with their mind and experiment with their consciousness. Like, that's what we did yesterday, flat out. Like, drugs do that. Like, you can experiment with your consciousness without drugs, but there shouldn't be necessarily legislation that dictates drug use, and unless if there's a certain correlation or I guess causation. I don't know the word. I don't know the precise definitions of the words and how it works, but if like there's direct, or I guess it'd be correlation would be a high number, but causation would be one actually causes the other. So I guess more if there was a high correlation due to like, I guess, laws being broken other than the law of, like, or the illegality of the drug itself. Like, people, like, I feel like a lot of people, the stigma around people who use drugs is that, like, they're bad people or they can't get their life together, which the first part isn't true, but the second part's a little true. You know?
And I think that could be said for everybody, because even the people that know the most, have the most money, they're always, missing something in terms of, like, what was the last thing you said? Like, I don't know how to word it, honestly.
I guess, like, they don't have...
It's like, they have their life together, so to speak.
Shit's figured out, but, like, I feel like for the situation that we live in, the economic system, the whole construction, like, yesterday, like, I really realized a whole bunch. Like, I feel like, I guess in the words that I can use to describe the feeling that I had, I saw and felt the reasons and justifications for all of what we've done here in terms of the houses and the system of economics and currency and why it's here. But what people don't understand is that there's always going to be that balance between good and bad. Bad won't ever prevail in a sense.
In a sense it can.
But good always prevails if bad does. Because they need each other. They need each other to exist. The good things are the good things because the bad things exist, and vice versa, And I think that one of the major things, like, for example, yesterday, like, Khabib, or I should say Habib, that's how you pronounce it. Habib literally did some god shit. Like, that was, and not in the sense of, like, going, like, in terms of going to war and battling, like, one-on-one, like, that shit's crazy.
Yeah.
But he also, at the end of the day, like, fulfilled the prophecy of sorts in his life. Like,
he emotionally went to war, too.
Yeah, bro, his dad died recently. Like, it was his last fight in the octagon, and now, like, he did what, like, humans are meant to do. In a sense, like, find something that you love and something that you're fucking good at and say fuck the rest and get good at it and become the best.
Yeah.
And, like...
And go out on top, pretty much.
Literally, like, for me, like, a lot of yesterday made a lot of sense in terms of why I'm here. And, like, I feel like we've created this. Like, what else would we create besides a world where we could be anyone we wanted to be? We just got to do that shit.
The constructs we've created kind of it deters some people from following. Like me myself personally, I could share this. My father was, in the police department, and I guess him passing, like, that really was a moment in my life where I was like, all right, I want to be just like him. I want to go into the police department. I want to do all that shit. And I realized more and more, I was like, I do not want to, that's not me. And I don't even know if it was him back in the day, but I know for a fact, I know he loved to help people, and I like to help people too, but
not that way.
Myself, I don't think I'd be best utilized as a police officer. I feel like I'd be wasting my time and wasting what I would love to experience in my lifetime. And that's why although it's a riskier route, I'm going the way to become a sports writer, music writer, something like that. And I'm going to try my hardest at it.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Like, and like, I really feel like the aspiring to be dad, like I was going into school, I originally majored being an engineer. Like, I was like, alright, like, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm interested in. And like, part of why I told you what I told you through yesterday, and even what I said, and you guys are like, oh, nah, like, you're not, is that I idolized him so much, especially after he passed, and I was wishing so much to be like him, and then more and more, since I was speaking that into existence, it was manifesting, and like, that's why for me I have the responsibility, and I think we all have the responsibility to address, at the end of the day, traumas that are passed down through your ancestors that they did not handle. Because if we don't, our kids are going to deal with the same shit.
Yeah.
And then we're teaching them to not handle it, so then they won't handle it, and then it will go down to their kids. Unless if they realize on their own that it's time to handle shit, and that's why
I feel it's our responsibility to take care of this now, so then when we have children, hopefully in the future, they don't have to carry a burden or
of
just
problems
anything than they need.
Exactly.
They're gonna have problems. Everybody has problems.
Exactly. Like, it's about...
Don't let my problems become their problems.
Exactly. And, like, it's rough, because that's the whole thing about parenting. Like,
it's tough.
Parenting is, like, the hardest thing ever. You have to raise people, like, we were once the people that had to be raised. And still now, like, there's shit that we don't know, and there's always going to be learning, but I think that, I guess more so for my kids, there's going to be... and I'm not going to have kids until a little later. Like, I want to be there with my kids.
Especially.
Like, I want time to explore for myself, but at the same time, I want to be ready to introduce other individuals in this world. Like,
yeah.
It's like it's the hardest thing that...
I wouldn't say it's our main goal in life to reproduce, but it's a pretty big thing.
Yeah, I would say, like, in terms of, I guess relationship-wise and, like, myself growing as a center of being, more so than anything. Like, I think that there are a lot of lessons to learn from that, but I also need to go into it ready. That's a long commitment. It's a lifetime commitment of worrying about someone who you love more than you've ever loved anyone in the entire world before that. What is cracking, my boy? How you doing?
We're sending it out, alright. What? So we could just edit it out.
Yeah, word. It's all good. How you doing?
I really think they hit again this morning. Swear to God. I don't know if it's possible. I woke up this morning. Do you know that feeling we have, the gloom? I woke up in that same feeling. I shit myself. I got so nervous. Yeah, good morning.
Same here, actually. Yeah, I took a tiny hit of a clip, and then I got the rush. I was like, am I there right now?
Oh, no. Yeah, I bugged. I was like, I woke up and I just woke up in the bed. I woke up and it was just dark, and I was like, the gloomy feeling was bugging. Alright, enjoy.
No, we will.
Sorry to interrupt.
Alright.
Nice.
Where were we?
Just like that, like, kids, just like being like getting to the point of like raising children one day. It's like you never thought you could love anyone in the whole entire world more so than you did, and then you find the person you're gonna have kids with, and it's like, oh shit, I've never loved anyone more than this person, and then you have kids with that person, and then it's like, fuck, holy shit,
these people are my responsibility.
and I'm their responsibility in the same way. For me, it's like very team oriented. Yeah, I want to be a big part of the team and definitely lessen the workload for as many as I could while still
that tradition
being okay.
I think still rings true though, as personally me, the man, I feel we tend to take on more of the burden.
Yeah, and whatever we could. I think like it's kind of in most,
yeah, it's not all
species, just in general, I feel, too, like, in terms of a Earth-wide ecological situation. But, like, it's been conditioned in me for sure. But at the same time, I would even, male, female, like, man, a woman, like, we all got a job to do, and I want to do it to the best of my ability for the ones around me, and, like, you're around me. Joe and Mike are around me, like, even when you're not, like, I'm still trying to put that energy out for everyone, really, even when I'm not with them. Like, I think about you three a lot. I think about, like, John Luca and everyone a lot, just because I want everyone doing good.
Yeah,
And
I want
like
all my friends to prosper and
word, but so
well
it,
deserved.
agreed. Like I think we all deserve like really good shit. At the end of the day, we've been through a lot, but we also need to get it. I've come to realize that like the journey is like really, really like individual, but at the same time, it's very like there's shit that you learn with groups, and there's shit that you learn with talking to one another. Like one thing I think I actually wrote down yesterday, like in terms of people trying to have it figured out, like I feel like what we're told and what's been projected onto us conditionally, but also more because our parents, this is what they've been told, and our grandparents, what they've been told, but like we've just been told to figure it out, which like I think that figuring it out is very. I feel like once you realize that figuring it out takes everyone to figure the whole thing out, then it's like, all right, figure out what you can and share that information. Like one thing I wrote yesterday was we all have some of it figured out, but in total we need to talk about it to realize what it means to figure it out. Because like you can't have all of it without all of the parts of it being involved.
What you wrote down really could be applied to anything. A scientist somewhere that figures something out, his thing could be disproved by somebody that figures it out and proves it even more. So we just gotta build off one another.
Yeah, I agree. Like
nobody's figuring out the world, so to speak, by themselves.
Yeah, we all do it. You can't. Yeah, it's like you.
We depend on each other to share information. Like I don't know anything about space. I trust in people at like NASA and other foundations.
Yeah, and that know what the fuck they're trying to do. Like for me it's so crazy because I feel like what we've done just in general is like put a lot of order to the chaos.
Yeah, that's
like literally, bro, I think like I said yesterday, like every like it sounds crazy, but like literally everything is an analogy or a metaphor to like not wanting shit on you, like literal shit in every way, because no one wants shit to do, no one wants to clean up shit, no one wants to shit, it's all shit.
Yeah.
But that's literal and figurative. And like I think all of really, if we want to go all the way back to probably our earliest fears in terms of worrying about others from like a evolution standpoint, whether we were like if it was the Neanderthals at that point, I don't know how far along, and I don't know which breakup of
where we actually
like in terms of the conscious awareness of like worrying about how other people look, and when the ego kind of came into play, like who knows? It was probably like fucking monkeys laughing at other monkeys for having shit on their ass.
Probably.
But yo, if that's part of the start, this is the result of all of that, and not even that it's the result; it's the same thing.
Yeah, we're just keep
building off.
There's just layers and more layers. So, like a monkey laughing at a monkey for having shit on his ass is pretty much the same thing as me laughing at somebody for having a bad haircut or some shit like
literally. But yo, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, it's all just like no one wants to deal with shit, their own shit, someone else's shit thrown at them. Like, no one wants it in the sense of like. Not that people don't want to deal with it when they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah,
I guess
everybody wants things to
work out
around them, and pretty much for the universe to
fit. But yo, when I'm on mushrooms, I feel like that. Like, when I think about it more, and it's like everything fell into place yesterday, and like. What I'm starting to realize is that it always falls into place. Everything kind of falls into place like that, and we create what falls into place. Like, for me, one of the things, when I was at home, coming home in March, getting sent home, my first thing was like, all right, I need a job. as soon as I start working at Lowe's, it's like, all right, I'm working at Lowe's. Now it's time to find a job that I can work remotely. I have that job that I can work remotely. Now it's like, oh, start the podcast. And it's like, oh, shit.
The chains
And
move.
like, yeah, and you just gotta talk about it. You gotta write it. You gotta believe what the fuck you're gonna do.
You just gotta do it.
Yeah, and then like the more you tell yourself you're gonna do it, the more you do it. That's what you're doing. You know, like one thing that I explained to David on the first episode, and it was math related, and for me, it was about the sums of sequences, not the sums, the limits of sequences specifically. So basically, in this like analogy, you have two sequences. One sequence, you start from 1 and then you just go up, going along numbers 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't have a limit. And like for me, when I think about that sequence, I get very thrown off if I'm thinking about the things I have to do as, oh, I have to do this thing first, then this thing second, then this thing third, and think about it as the number of things I have to do, and that has no limit. So the number of things that I have to do
It's infinite.
infinite, never ends. So I'm never getting to what I'm telling myself I'm going to get to. If you have a sequence full of ones, you start with 1, it's just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Not only is the limit going to be one thing you do at a time, but you're always going to be doing what you're aspiring to do because it's the one thing that you're focusing one at a time. And like, I think it's important, like, I think that's so important to like really trying to bring myself back to the present moment and just trying to get shit done. Like, for example, I wanted to get my stats homework done and record with you and Joe. I'm doing everything but one thing at a time. I'm trying to set up shit on here, also looking at some podcast stuff, but doing some work. It's like, I focused on my stats after a while, finished it, and now I'm recording. It's simple. Like yesterday, me in the bathroom. Made things so complex. Much simpler situation.
Yeah.
You know, like it's no different. It's bro, it's fucking crazy, honestly. So I guess a question for you now is just like, what is the current steps that you're kind of dealing with school? Like, what's going down in terms of your shift in decision? Because, like you said before, it went from aspirations of fatherly like situation to now really trying to find out who you are at the end of the day. And I'm curious as to how school and the shift in how school is going down now, like how has that affected you? Has it been better, worse, indifferent?
Well, right now I'm sort of taking the residuals for communications. I gotta take all the basic courses and shit like that.
Word.
So I'm really not diving into what I exactly want to do, but there's a few things like I'm in like a media writing class, which is literally what I want to do.
Which is gangster.
Yeah, and it's great, and I'm learning how to write different types of things. Like this week I gotta create a PSA for a local Cortland foundation. I can pick anything.
Nice.
I'm gonna make a 30-second PSA for it, then a 15-second. So I'm learning different tools, and I feel like it's going well. I wish like I could jump into more advanced stuff because I honestly feel like this stuff is sort of elementary and it's really not going to benefit me later on. Besides things like communication history, which is pretty cool too. That's another class.
Well, what other class? Like, what classes are you taking that you feel that are like, I guess not so, or I guess too, or like elementary to what you were saying? Like what?
Well, like the communication history. Obviously, that stuff is vital. I think more so now. Like the first half of the year, we talked about the origins of like cave paintings and all that, and that's very interesting to me. But then again, I saw it as just another history class, and I'm kind of off that stuff because although I love history, I love just taking in knowledge of just random shit. That's something I've always loved to do. It's kind of repetitive. Like I learned about the cave things in high school, learning about it again now. I really just don't need that information anymore.
I feel you. It's like you're gonna use, like, it's gonna be used in whatever way. But yeah, I got you. Like, it's just very repetitive, both history, just how history's taught, and then also some context too.
But I've had some solid professors and some solid courses last year. Like one class last year, it's what I want to do. It was intro to film, and we'd watch movies every week, discuss it in class under different lenses. Even though if I didn't agree with some of the stuff that we would talk about in terms of like tying movies to the feminist groups and shit like that, because I think sometimes people are just reaching, to spread a bigger message, like for something that a movie's not really tied to, but I see where they're coming from, and I'm trying to understand more where people are coming from with that stuff. But like that was right on my alley, and I'm want to take another class that's like that in the near future. And honestly, I've loved the switch so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying school itself way more, even though I hate the online. I think most people hate the online. I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't adapt to it. I really can't.
What I don't like about the online is the screen itself. Trying to take in information over a computer is a lot different.
That I like in-person contact with people. I like talking to people in person.
Word.
I feel sort of awkward talking over the computer.
It's just it's not. I don't think it's optimal. Which it's a tool that we have, and it allows us to teach and learn over it. But at the same time, I think that it for me doesn't do as much in terms of the learning. Definitely like processing it too.
Yeah, it's tough. I guess kids now, like let's say, like I have a younger cousin. He's going through this now. He's in 6th grade. Just got into 6th grade. Let's say that it's like this for another year, and let's say, because there are some countries, I don't know if the U.S. is ever planning on doing this, but they're going to start implementing both in person and online for the future. Like this COVID-19 kind of like mesh that together, so countries from now on are going to try to implement online learning more. And I feel like those kids could adapt more if they're growing up on it. But us, we've been in classrooms, from me at least, from 5 to now I'm 20, so.
Yeah. I think that kids will adapt to it. I think home life will be, and like home teaching, and like a lot of newer, and I guess like a lot of new dynamics of living will come about and be experienced. Like parents are gonna have to stay home a little more.
Yeah.
Like how like companies are gonna have to hopefully offer more remote jobs so people can do that and kind of. Well, yeah, it's crazy because that's the deal with money and how our system runs, and it's just like
everything ties back to.
Do you try to outweigh the good with the bad? Are you gonna try? Like, what do you do when you know that there's gonna be equally amount of good and bad? Like, we live in a very prosperous life. Like, I feel that we've done some good shit in our previous experiences, whatever they were. For me, anyways, that has put me in this spot of existence. Like what I can't fathom being anything else but a human and being, I guess, more like grateful for the experience, and like I'm very grateful for like the time, like the tools that we've come up with and how they've been so great, but since they've been so great, they've equally been as destructive. Yeah. And like, because we live this prosperous life at the cost of half the planet being enslaved.
Half the planet being enslaved, half the planet being destroyed.
Yeah, and like it's rough when you're in that position. Do you go for the individual experience,
And that's
Or
what
do
most
you-
of the higher ups are doing.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that the name of the game is kind of like,
Power.
yeah, but it's control, it's influence, it's
We all want to be the most influential. We all want to have people just look at us and say, hear what we're saying. I mean,
listen to this. Like, I
mean,
feel that way
theoretically,
too.
We're doing that too. I mean, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
We're sharing our experience, but in the end, we want people to listen so they could hear our experiences. But we want them to have our
Literally,
attention.
yo, and I think that way about everything. I think that, bro, yesterday, like, when Paz was talking about how he felt that the trees were more vibrant and the color changes were definitely more apparent, like, those trees are waving at us. They're not like, oh, they're blowing through the wind, but they're like, hey, come over here. Like, come see what we're up to. Like, pay attention to me. And the same reason that we all try to do that. And, like, when we, for me, like, what I've come to realize is when I've tripped, every single time there has been a shift in the nature around me in terms of it being like, oh, this motherfucker is finally back to where he's supposed to be instead of the fucking houses and fucking...
Yeah, like I had that with the grass yesterday. I've never looked at grass.
The grass was talking back at you, bro.
Pretty much.
The grass was like, yo, you missed this shit. You've been doing this before. Like, don't... Like, it's just crazy. Like, we've come so far in, like, where is the true balance of it all? And, like, that's us. Like I said yesterday, like, I feel like I don't respect myself enough for all of the balancing of different me's that I have to deal with. Like, I feel that for everyone, we don't give ourselves enough, respect for, being here. Just like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And everyone's doing it. And I respect everyone in the sense for those reasons. Respect can be, taken away. And then, or even more given. But, I think that at the fundamental, like, foundation of just, being here, existing, like, trying to figuring out whatever you can, really. I think it's very important for all of us to really understand that we are worth whatever it is we choose to be worth. And, like, that's why the conditioning in terms of mainstream media, like, just teaches people that they're not powerful. Like, whether you're white, black, yellow, brown, orange, blue, green, no matter what part of the world you're from, like, you're tall, you're not powerful. And, like, when you're not powerful, you're not dangerous and you're scared. Like, this guy, Habib, all these fighters, like, they're disciplined as fuck. They are gods. Like, they're mission driven. They have discipline higher than many of us. Many people that I know.
Oh, definitely.
And they're just getting shit done. It's God shit. There's nothing. Tell me what else God. What would God create for himself or herself or itself to do? Experience as many different things as possible. Doing as many different things as possible.
That's why we're God.
At the same time, yeah, God's playing hide and seek, and God likes to forget that he's God sometimes. Or she's God, or it's God. Like, it's us. Like, we can do whatever we want. Like, yesterday I was watching the fight. If I was thinking about wanting what I was watching to slow down, it was slowing down a little bit. And then when I wanted it to speed up and be like, oh, like, this is going mad slow. Like, what the fuck? Then it sped up right to normal. I'm like, bro. It's like that, we're time benders. If you want to, there's air benders, there's water benders, fire benders, earth benders. Like, the time bending is crazy. Like, I feel like that's that's what we do. We all experience time differently. It's relative to everyone. You know, like, if, for example, someone can take very good care of themselves, physically and mentally, really eat the right shit, and an 80-year-old can look like a 40-year-old. But if a 40-year-old does not take care of themselves, eats horribly, does all the wrong things, doesn't preserve their body physically, they can either A, be dead, or B, look like an 80-year-old. Yeah. And like, in terms of the time of like aging, like, there has been less aging over the course of the same amount of constructed time. There's been expanding of knowledge, but in terms of the actual aging process that you participate in, it's a lot less. It's not as fast. And I think that's important, like, because the more present you are, the slower this shit goes by. Like, you can be somewhere, you think you're there for an hour, and then you look at your phone, it's 10 minutes gone by, and it's like, bro, yeah, there's no way. But it's true. Literally, school was the other way around. School felt like 6 hours. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. It felt like 6 hours in class, and then it was like, oh, class period 3 just ended.
Yeah, and we were out of school. That's time before.
Bro, Tottenville it did a lot for me.
School,
senior year, like, I guess senior year did a lot for me in terms of, like, coming out of my shell, more so in terms of just doing shit. I had a car at that point, too, so I was like, alright, I can go out and do things. And, yeah, senior year was interesting. High school was interesting. College is definitely... College is more interesting, and, look, me now being home, like, it's crazy. Like, starting the podcast, one thing I want to do is kind of reconnect with people and kind of talk to interesting motherfuckers through this, like, and see how, you know, like, see how people are doing, have them kind of talk about what they're trying to do, like.
I know there's people out there that definitely still think we're the same people that we were in high school.
Exactly, and the other way around. Like, we'll think about people, and it's just be like, oh.
I see people now, I'm like, oh, I remember that idiot. Or like,
exactly.
Like a druggie or some shit.
And like,
in reality.
We were the druggies, too. Like, for me, like, I've come to be very surprised by people when I see them.
Definitely.
You know, like, and I feel like I do the same, and I think it's important to keep an open mind and believe that, like, I think time overall helps people. You know, it accelerates the process of learning and expanding. Like, it's so crazy. I think, like, I don't even know what to make of it. Like, I think the universe as a whole does that. Like, tries to expand itself, but also tries to expand within itself.
Yeah, I get that.
And, like, that's what we're here to do. I feel like we're supposed to expand our minds and to expand our consciousness, and like I think it's just very important to be aware of the situation. To not be completely blind of like what we're supposed to be doing here as opposed to what we've been told to do. You know, and we always do shit that we're told to do. Like, our thoughts aren't original. The English language isn't ours, you know. But it's what we identify to and what we attach to and what makes us feel good. Like, recording this makes me feel good. Yeah. So I'm going to do it, you know.
Writing makes me feel good.
So you fucking do it. Like, you do what makes you feel good as long as it doesn't directly hurt individuals in that sense, even though
people are going to get hurt regardless.
People are going to get hurt regardless, and I just hope that the people that get hurt come around and cope with it well, because I know that I've been hurt, and that's what you have to do. I can't make anyone not be hurt. It's perception, you know?
Yeah.
It's all perception. Like, you can say the most horrible things about me and my family and how we're all assholes and shit, but like, I know that's a reflection of how someone feels if they're going to say that to me, and the same thing if I said that to you and to anyone else. It's just a reflection of how I feel about myself. And that's what I'm starting to realize more and more each day, and something I guess I've always realized, but I guess just more and more of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely does.
So, I guess from there, I got a one question in mind. Where is it? Where did I write this shit? Is it over here? Yeah. Alright, so I guess for me it goes... Alright. For me, in terms of my language and speaking most consistently and how I can kind of represent things, and my thoughts and stuff, I'm a big numbers guy. It's known, I've referenced it before.
Yeah.
So I guess my question for you, I guess this will be my final question to kind of end off, but I think it's a good question to end on, is what does language mean to you? And I guess that's verbal, non-verbal, the English language, if you like. You writing, for example, having language, having an effect on you in that sense, I guess. Just overall, what does a language mean to you, and how has it played in your life that has been both good and bad?
I think language obviously is beneficial because, communication.
Yeah, it's communication.
But I guess as recently, language could be skewed, and with everything going on, it's very hard. Some stuff you don't know what to say, whether it'll hurt somebody's feelings or whether it'll be looked at as an attack on somebody.
Yeah.
So I think language has to be separated. I think words hold way too much power.
We put way too much value in them, is kind of what you're saying.
Yes, we should not let one word, although, I could see why people tie some words to, derogatory meanings and hurtful feelings. But if you're letting a word dictate how you feel and it really is hurting you deep down, I think you have to move on from that.
Yeah, I think you gotta address what the real root of that, where that comes from, where that hurt comes from. Is it something that you've experienced? Is it something that you've been told that?
Yeah, I learned about collective memory, and I feel people nowadays especially tie to collective memory a lot. So let's say their ancestors were, what's the word? I don't know. I don't want to go into racial issues, but let's say they were called something.
Yeah, derogatory based on the color of their skin. It was racist. Full-blown racist term.
I think people nowadays hold what their ancestors were called to what they're feeling now. I can't really tell.
I think that part of that is because, personally, I believe that consciousness is passed down generationally in certain thoughts and expressions of being. That's why what I told you yesterday, that is a lot of the quote logic behind it, is because I think a lot of thoughts are passed down, especially the ones that are not filtered out or addressed properly.
Yes.
And that's what happens. Exactly that. People, kind of believe a story that they're told, and what they've been told to feel a certain way, and then being told how to feel a certain way either A, confirms what they're feeling, or B, questions what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that the questioning part's important, because you can't necessarily take anything as set in stone. Things always change. That's the name of the game here, I feel.
I mean, we're judging people hundreds of years ago for shit that has happened, when you cannot put today's times. You can't put them in today's times, just as you wouldn't be able to put us in their time.
Yeah, I agree. I think we just have to understand that, no matter what, I feel like the answer to whatever questions people are solving is just to be nice, a little nicer to people. Be nicer to yourself. first.
Nicer to yourself.
Be
definitely,
nicer to
and
yourself
that helps
first.
you be nicer to other people.
Because that's what it is. Like, yeah, I am you. You are me. If I'm being mean to myself, I'm being mean to you. If I'm being mean to you, I'm being mean to myself. Like, it's nothing that you've done. It's what I see in you that I identify with and feel a certain way for. And I'm telling you that you are bad for it, so I feel less bad about myself for it. You know? And it's fucked up shit, I think. I think it's important to teach people that they're very powerful and they can do whatever the fuck they want. And I think that division, in any sense, like, it's going to happen, but at the same time, we allow ourselves to divide and fray off from each other for whatever reason. You know, and I think it's important to really see each other as beings, and, like, no matter what backgrounds, what experiences, I want to look at someone and be like, alright, if I ask if they're okay, not, oh, like, I guess for example, like, when I see people from high school, it's like, am I going to have the conversation of just reading down the list of shit that I have?
Like, you go to college,
or am I going to say, or even after that, because most of the time we read the list off anyways, but like...
Yeah, just as an icebreaker.
Yeah, for me, like, most of the time what I try to do is, like, if someone asks me, I'll be like, oh, like, I had a good day today, or I'll talk about what I did today. So, like, that's what they're dealing with. Like, for me, like, I'm dealing with you today. Like, it's like, how have you been? You can be good or bad. It's like, all right, how are you now? And then if you're feeling good, awesome. I want to hear about that. And if you're feeling not good, it's like, oh, but I still want to hear about it.
Yeah.
You know, I want to hear about how people are doing now as opposed to, like, I guess what other people would perceive as, like, good or bad in terms of how they're doing.
Yeah, and I think myself, generally, if I run into somebody from the past and they ask me how I'm doing, even if I'm doing shitty, I'm very brief with them. And I feel like that's just because I don't like to take people's time. Because that's just me. I'm not, like, unless I want to talk to somebody, I kind of just brush them off. And that's a fault. That's always been one of my faults. But I'm not over talkative.
Yeah, for me,
I talk when I want to talk. Like,
I'm the same. I talk a lot though. Like, I can talk, but there are definitely people that I enjoy talking to on a level of, like, there are a lot of people that have influenced me in different ways, and the more I realize the ways that they have that have directed this course of existence and has led me to right now, which is really everyone, like, I like to see how those people are doing.
Yeah.
And, like, I like talking to them from a standpoint of, like, hey, no matter what has happened, all of the in-between the last time I saw you, and no matter what happens after this encounter, I want to know how you're doing right now. And I think that's important. I think we need more of that. I think we need more of just, you know, caring about how people are within themselves, because that's what you want to be for yourself.
Yeah.
I feel.
If we all do that, maybe it could be a better world.
Yeah, word. We're at 53 and a half minutes. I think we'll end it here. Fran, this was a wonderful conversation, even with the interruption of Mike for a little bit, but it's all good. It's funny that he said that, because I felt a little bit of it too this morning.
Who knows? Maybe I'll feel that too, honestly, in a little bit.
Word. But thank you, Franny. It's been really good, and I'm excited for the next one, my boy.
It was great being on, and hopefully in the future, let a little time pass, just as we're gonna do with the films,
word.
We'll do this again.
Yeah, I'm fit. I'm so fit. Alrighty. So thank all of you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.